Namaste to all of you. A warm welcome to everyone for this most awaited session. It's not what you achieve, it's what you overcome. That's what defines your career. As education systems are diversifying and expanding, the creation of new jobs and opportunities are changing. So it is crucial that individuals make their career choices. Career counseling is a vital cog in a student's journey. Our career guidance webinars provide a perfect roadmap for students and that helps them achieve their goals. Today's session is in the context of information and cybersecurity opportunities. It's a great privilege for me to introduce our honorable panelist, Mr. Chandrasekhar, Cybersecurity Analyst. Namaste, sir. At this juncture, let's invoke the blessings of Almighty through prayer. I request Mr. Maligeshwaran to chant Gayatri Mantra to revitalize our souls. I request everyone to join us.
Om Bhur-Bhuvaswaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Thank you, sir. To be inspired is great, but to be an inspiration is an honor. On this special occasion, we have an eminent personality, our distinguished panelist, Mr. Chandrasekhar, Cybersecurity Analyst, to handhold the children in their career journey. Mr. Chandrasekhar is an alumnus of DAV Group of Schools from 1997 batch. He is a chartered accountant by professional qualification, specializing in information security and audit domain. Mr. Chandrasekhar has more than 18 years of experience in information security and IT audits. He is a trainer for security certifications and has held sessions both in India and abroad. He has authored books on the subjects as well. He also has ongoing experience in providing information security audit for banks, insurance companies, and large enterprises in the field of information security. He currently heads the information security practice at Yoganand and Ram LLP and also at Trust LLP. On behalf of our management, I'm delighted to express the most hospitable welcome to him. It's a pleasure to have you amidst us, sir. I also extend my hearty welcome to the members of the organizing committee and our revered principals of the DAV Group of Schools, and a special welcome for our audience. Let's lend our ears to the golden words of our distinguished panelist. His speech will be followed by question and answer session. I request the attendees to text your questions in the QA box, which is displayed on your screen, and your questions will be addressed at the end of the session. May I now request Mr. Chandrasekhar to take over. Please, sir.
Yeah. Good evening to one and all. Is it audible? Is it clear?
Yes, sir. It is audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You're audible.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I will just share my screen so that you can take a look at the presentation as well. Is the presentation clear to the others, please?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, good. Yeah. At the outset, I would like to thank the DAV Group of Schools for this opportunity. Right, this is a space which attracts a lot of attention. Of late, thanks to the media, right, we keep hearing about cybersecurity, information security, and a few other things. As a career opportunity, this space holds a lot of value, right? Going forward, simply by the reason that today we are so dependent on information systems for most of our activities. The moment somebody talks about cybersecurity, right, the first few things that we hear, right, from the press or from anywhere else are terms like hacking, cybercrime, and ransomware. Right? I'm sure you pick up any newspaper or an online news article, right? Anything relating to computers or computing or banking, right? Today, the media has made a few terms very popular, right? One of them is hacking, right? We keep hearing this. We say a website of some organization has been hacked, or we say some services like Google or Microsoft is down for some time. It's a big event today. If systems go down, it attracts a lot of attention. Sometimes it also causes quite a bit of disruption in terms of the working. So this is important for us to understand what they are trying to convey. So generically, people associate these things with hacking or cybercrime. You hear saying a bank has been subject to cybercrime, somebody has lost money due to cybercrime, right? Not just institutions, but individuals too lose a lot of money sometimes to these kind of events. So it's important for us to understand what we mean by each of these terms. But what we also need to understand is this is not restricted to these things, right? It's not just about cybercrime or it's just not about hacking. These are terms which have been made popular, but information security and cybersecurity is quite in depth. So what we intend to do over the next half an hour or so is to provide a broad introduction to what constitutes information security and cybersecurity. What are the various domains or areas of interest which students can qualify themselves or work in? It's quite vast, right? It's just like we said, it's not simply ethical hacking or something relating to that. There are quite a lot of things that people can work on, a lot of areas of interest. We will try and touch upon some of these areas of interest so that it will give you a perspective in terms of how you can structure your preparation. There are a few good qualifications and certifications, right? When we say qualifications and certifications, some of them very formal qualifications, right? You might have to go and attend a college, or you might have to join a full-time program. Some of them or most of them are certifications which you can do along with your regular graduation or engineering or whatever be the stream that you choose to, and some of the probable career opportunities or roles that an individual can play, right, in any of these domains. I've kept it simple because the target audience is I understand mostly students who are aspiring to understand a little bit about this stream. So I've kept it simple. If you do have any queries, feel free to let me know. Right? At the end of the session, we'll try and answer them. First and foremost, when somebody says that they are working in the space of cybersecurity or information security, earlier it was called information security. Today it is a new nomenclatured term called as cybersecurity, and we tend to associate anything to do with the internet relating to cybersecurity. It primarily deals with securing your information technology assets. In the simplest terms, today we have a lot of hardware, we have a lot of software, we have databases, we have networks, right? Some in small scale, some in large scale, but organizations are typically run by these kind of systems, right? Even in our own homes or offices, or even in our own schools or institutions where we go, we see computing hardware, right? We see desktops, we see laptops, we use several softwares, right? Some of which are simple, like maybe a Word or an Excel or a spreadsheet. Some of them more complicated, like a banking system, right? So we have hardware, we have software, and obviously we need to store data that we process. We store data as files, as individuals, but large corporates, right? Because of the volume of data, they store data in a more organized form, in the form of databases. And obviously, we need networks because we don't intend to travel. Only the information travels from one place to another, including this webinar. Right? Physically, all of us are present in different locations, but we are still able to communicate thanks to networks. Right? We have simple networks like the home network that we use, a Wi-Fi, a router, a broadband for our home or an office, or we have complex networks like virtual private networks, VPNs, virtual private networks, IPsec networks, which large corporates use to connect their branches. Imagine a bank, right, or an insurance company having branches across the country or even across the world. They use a lot of networks to communicate with each of the respective locations. In terms of information assets, broadly we say computing hardware, software, the databases and networks contribute to your computing assets. Now, what is the challenge with these assets? Right, so long as they work well, there is no challenge. The moment there is some vulnerability, some weakness associated with any of these assets, right? For example, we might have heard a term called as a malware or a virus. Some threats keep working, right? Why do they? What is their intention? Their intention may be to bring down some of these assets because of some value proposition, like if they are able to break into a credit card network or a bank's network, right? Maybe somebody might want to steal some money, or they might want to steal some information. So today, these assets, maybe not the home computing devices, but corporate computing devices are subject to a lot of vulnerabilities, which are weaknesses. And there are also threats, which are forces, which can cause loss or damage, right? We hear about hackers, we hear about virus attacks, we hear about ransomwares, which hit these systems. So on one hand, we have IT assets, we have computing assets like hardware, software, network and databases. On the other hand, we have some vulnerabilities, some weaknesses associated with these assets, and some threats, which are basically a risk factor, right? Something can go wrong. Like we said, maybe in a home setup, we don't really bother much about it because we don't really put it to that kind of an use where if something goes wrong with our desktop or laptop, nothing really hits us. But if it hits a bank or a government department or the railways or the airline ticket booking, the same hardware, software, database and networks, then there is a business disruption. So today, in terms of securing or protecting these assets, we need to implement a set of controls, right? We need to protect these assets to make them work, to ensure that if these assets are subject to some threats, right, still these assets are resilient. They are with the set of controls that can ensure that nothing goes wrong, or if something goes wrong, right, like you have a downtime or you have a software failure or a hard disk crash, that there are ways and means of recovering from these kind of situations. This broadly is what is cyber security. So we are trying to secure the most important assets today, which help us in computing. You are securing it against what? You are going to try and secure it against a set of vulnerabilities, a set of threats, right, which is very prevalent. We'll see some of them as we go forward. And how do you protect them? Right, you have to implement a set of controls, logical controls, physical controls, right? Like I'm sure most of us would have used passwords to log into this session, or you might have got an OTP from your bank or OTP as part of an online purchase that you make on Amazon or Flipkart. Right? Each of these is a set of controls which ensure that only you are doing the transaction and no one else is doing these transactions. This kind of overall protection of information assets is what cyber security or information security is about. Within this, there are several domains in which one can specialize. One can build a career, that you can learn specialized skills in each of them, right? And still it will fall within the overall domain of cyber security or information security. We have tried to list some of such areas of interest where as a student post your schooling, you could actually qualify yourself or update yourself, and not just not just for the sake of updation. You could really make a career out of it. These are some of the things. We'll look at each of them in detail. The first and foremost, we talk about software security, or how do we protect the software which we use, right? Like we said, you have an access control, you have encryption, you have ways and means of protecting the software that we use from harm or something from going wrong. Network security is another area of domain within the cybersecurity domain. It's an interesting area because you're trying to protect networks which run across the country, which run across the globe, or it's even within an office building or within a premises. The challenge with networks is it is so widespread, right? It's not in a single place, right? The whole purpose of networks, like we said, was you and I need not travel, but data needs to travel, just like a telephone line. So how are we going to protect data traveling over these networks from unauthorized access or misuse is what network security is about. A very interesting domain within the overall domain of cybersecurity. Data privacy, right? Today, a lot of value is being associated with data, right? Information, right? Information about you, information about me, information about what transactions we do, personal information about us, right? We might not really bother, but each of this has some commercial value, right? Each of this has some value to business or value to some organization, which can be used, which can be misused. For example, we might have seen a lot of times that we think about buying a product. The moment you start searching about a product online, you get advertisements relevant to that product. Even after you have left the system, next time you log in, you get relevant advertisements, right? Targeted marketing. Basically, that means they are analyzing the data about us. Today, large corporates, right, especially corporates which are in the field of social media, search engines like Google, right, they make a living out of data, right? And if the data is sensitive, like banking data, credit card information, then it becomes even more tricky. So there is a domain specializing in how to protect data against unauthorized access or misuse. Data center security. We see one end of the computing spectrum, which is basically the spectrum where you and I use computers for the sake of our day-to-day work. What we don't generally see is the centralized infrastructure, where all the sophisticated equipments for computing, not your desktops and laptops, but what we broadly call as servers, right, core network devices, they are all put up in a single place called as a data center. Today, if you take a large organization like banks or the railways or the airlines, what we see is just the front end. We see their desktops, we see the laptops, but we don't see a centralized location where all the data converges, right? And that location is called as a data center. Data centers are today, I would say, the core part of any business operation. It doesn't matter where you sit today. It doesn't matter from where you connect on a network today. What matters is where your data resides. Where is your centralized location where everything gets concentrated? That is called as a data center. Very large infrastructures, very sophisticated computing devices, high-end computing devices, multiple times the capability of your desktop and laptops. All of these are hosted, right? They are housed. They are put up in a place called as a data center, which basically becomes the hub for any organization. Today, if a data center is hit, either physically or logically, meaning a threat hits a data center, the entire business will come to a standstill. So there is a domain which specializes in how to build good data centers, how to protect data centers from harm. That is called as data center security. Legal and regulatory compliances. Today, the regulatory environment, right? Basically, the lawmaking authorities, the enforcing bodies, the regulators like the Reserve Bank of India. In Indian context, in a global context, there are several other regulators. Reserve Bank of India regulates banks. Insurance Regulatory Development Authority regulates insurance companies. Mutual funds, stockbrokers are regulated by Securities Exchange Board of India or SEBI. So these regulators and several other regulators have today realized public money, public transactions are being done through banks, insurance, mutual funds, stockbrokers, hospitals, right? You have a lot of data, a lot of public involvement in these kind of infrastructure. The regulators have now realized they need to protect the computing systems from harm or loss, because if something happens to a regulated industry, like something goes wrong with the bank, it is not just an issue with that bank, it's an issue with all the account holders of that bank, they may not be able to withdraw their money, right? They may not be able to do a business transaction. So today, regulatory compliances on how to comply with the regulations. There are a lot of regulations which have come up relating to cybersecurity, especially in banking and financial services, right? Because there is not just public involvement, there is public money that is involved in the whole thing. Business continuity and disaster recovery, right? An interesting domain which focuses more on how to restore back to normalcy if something goes wrong with my infrastructure, right? So that's called as business continuity and disaster recovery. We'll see that a little bit in detail, all of this in detail as we go forward. Cloud, another term which has been made very popular of late, right? You say everything is on the cloud, right? You say my data is on the cloud, music is on the cloud, right? Whatnot, everything is on the cloud, but you need to understand that cloud is also again a set of hardware, software, network, and data. Just that you don't manage it. Somebody like Amazon, Microsoft, or Google, they have built this infrastructure for you, and you use that infrastructure. But at the base, it's all the same. It's just a set of hardware, a set of software, data, and networks. But cloud has become very popular today, right? Operationally, because we say data is on the cloud, music is on the cloud, right? Everything seems to be on the cloud, including this session that's being recorded, right? The data recording is on the cloud, right? What is this cloud? Cloud is nothing but, again, a set of hardware, software, networks, except that you don't manage it, you don't own it. Somebody is managing it for you and you use it as a service. So how to secure this cloud environment is called as cloud security. And finally, one more area that we have listed is called as digital forensics, right? What attracts a lot of people is crime investigation or cyber crime investigation. Forensics is a science which deals with how to collect data, how to collect evidence. In our case, it's about a digital evidence, right? How to collect evidence from a mail, how to collect an evidence from a hard disk, how to collect evidences, digital evidences, footprints from a mobile, right? All of that falls under the space called as digital forensics. These are some of the domains, right? It's not exhaustive, but broadly, these are the domains which fall under cybersecurity. We'll look at each one of them. Software security, like we said, is securing software. Let's say the net banking software today, for the volume of transactions we do, right? Fund transfers we do online, school fees is paid online, shopping is done online, right? If it were not secure, by this time we would have had enormous number of failures, misuse of systems, right? Our card numbers being stolen. Thanks to software security on net banking, mobile banking, the payment apps, right? Sometimes we get very irritated when we get an OTP, or you don't get an OTP, or you get multiple OTPs, or your password doesn't seem to match and you are logged out. All we need to realize is each of this is a control which has been built into the software in our interest, right? To protect our interest. So software security is a domain which involves building these controls, testing these controls, right? You get paid to find out a bug, a vulnerability, right? Both manually or through an automated software. There are a lot of things that one can do to secure the software that we use, right? And when we say software, today it is very, very wide, right? From the mobile apps to the banking systems to the ERPs, right? There is every bit of what we do, including the apps that we use for booking a cab, right? Everything is a piece of software. It's a set of codes. It's a set of instructions. So software security deals with how do you secure these applications or these softwares? How do you ensure they're free from bugs? How do you test them to find out if there are any bugs? How do you remediate them? Right? It deals with a lot of things like authentication, right? Today, that is a big challenge. How do you know that if X wants to log into a software, how do you establish that he is X and he is not someone else, right? So today you have an authentication mechanism, you have biometrics, you have encryption to protect the data in transit, so that even if somebody gets hold of the data, they're not able to understand what it is. So all of this is part of software security. Today, there are numerous qualifications available for somebody to become a software testing professional or software security testing professional. One of the more popular ones is from the American Software Qualification Board. It is called as an international software testing standard, or the program is called International Software Testing Professional Program, being offered by the American Software Testing Qualification Board. Network security, like we said, challenging part of information security is networks, right? We use enormous amount of networks. We don't realize it, right? If networks stop working, all our communications will come to a standstill. Just like a telephone failure, a telephone network doesn't work, right? You can't make calls, right? If data network doesn't work, you can't transmit data. You can't participate in this program. You can't have an online session, which means there is some data that's constantly being pushed from one place to another, right? It may be just basic data like mail. It could be audio, video communication like us, but all of this depends upon networks. So to secure a network, there are a lot of components involved. How do you protect these networks? What are the kind of controls that you implement, right? You have local area networks within a building. You have wide area networks, which is across cities, right? Like your internet. And today we have a lot of wireless networks. Maybe you would have seen wireless networks in our home, a Wi-Fi router. Today, wireless is not just restricted to a place. It's not just restricted to a building. We are going to see wireless networks which will span cities, right? Just like you switch on your laptop in your home and you're able to connect to Wi-Fi. Maybe shortly we'll be able to just switch on our mobile and you'll connect to a wireless hotspot in a city. So which means essentially networks are only going to become more complex and securing them is going to become even more difficult. There are a lot of network devices involved like routers, switches. Some of them we might have seen at our homes. Some of them are very high-end. We might not have had an opportunity to look at it, like a firewall, an intrusion detection system, right? These are components of networks which ensure that your networks not just work, but they are also secure. Nobody is able to misuse your networks. Nobody is able to tap some data out of your networks, or even if somebody is attempting to do it, right? You have a mechanism to identify that. That is a domain of network security. Today, organizations have large infrastructures. They create a lot of monitoring, right? They want to see what's happening on their networks, right? You call them as a network operations control or network operations center, right? It's just like out of the movies, right? You'll see a big space with a lot of display boards, right? Showing up a lot of alerts on what's happening on their networks because they are so heavily dependent upon them, right? Imagine a bank, right, of the scale of State Bank of India or HDFC, right? Easily they will have about 4,000, 5,000 ATMs or even more. They would have about 4,000, 5,000 branches, right? Each geographically different, but connecting to their data center using networks. If a network link fails, right, that operations come to a standstill. So they create large operation control centers called as security operation control centers, network operation control centers. 24/7, there is monitoring of these networks, alerts, right? Is the network working, right? Something is down, right? Is there some unusual traffic coming in through a network, right? That's called as network security. There are a lot of certifications again to specialize in this field. The more popular ones are from Cisco, which is a world leader in network products, right? We have pen test or penetration testing certifications, right? There are a lot of certifications in this field of network security. Data protection. This is an emerging area as far as our country is concerned, because we are going to soon have a Personal Data Protection Act, a law by the government of India to protect our personal information, right? Like our PAN numbers, Aadhaar numbers, and in case of minors, even their date of birth, right? A lot of data about us today is in the public domain, right? And somebody is using it, somebody is misusing it. So the government has decided, just like in Europe, you have the GDPR, right? In US, you have data protection laws. In India, we did not have a specific data protection law. What happened because of that? Large corporates, especially the ones in the online business of social media, web search engines like Google, right? Or even marketplaces like Flipkart and Amazon. Just for example, there are a lot of other organizations. They analyze the data about us. They sell this data to advertising agencies or corporates so that they can target us with products, right? They can target us with advertisements, right? Send us alerts about things which they think we need, right? Essentially, they are using our data for their benefit and it's used against us. So basically, now we are going to have a regime, a law for data protection, which will ensure that these kind of misuses don't happen. Now, imagine the amount of data that's with corporates today, right? If you take banks, insurance companies, mutual funds, online shopping places, right? They have enormous amount of data about us, which we might have forgotten, but systems don't forget those data. Now we need somebody to help these organizations to ensure that this data stays safe, is used only for authorized purposes, right? That's the domain of data protection. A huge area of work, right? Simply by the reason that enormous amount of data is being used by these corporates for their business purposes. And it's our data, so we better be careful with it. And the organizations need to have a specific function called as a data privacy officer or a data protection officer, right? Somebody who can ensure that this data is not misused, is put to proper use. That's the regime of data protection. In our country, the personal data protection, the moment it comes up now, it's just a matter of time. It's believed that it will come up anytime now as a law. We are going to see an enormous demand for people who can work with corporates to protect the personal information that these corporates handle. Essentially, data is today treated as the most valuable asset, right? It's an asset which you cannot replace, right? If your hardware goes bad, you can buy a new desktop or a laptop. If your network stops working, right, you can get another internet service provider to give you a network connectivity. But if you lose data, you can't buy this data elsewhere in the market, right? So essentially, corporates want to protect their data. They also want to ensure that it is not misused. That's the domain of data protection. There are a lot of good qualifications that one can undergo or take up to become a privacy officer or a data protection officer, including certification from the International Association of Privacy Professionals, IAPP. Right? It's a global organization providing certifications in the field of data protection. In India, we have our own Data Security Council, which specializes in bringing out guidelines on how to protect data. Now they will become more active the moment this law comes up. In terms of data center security, like we said, data centers are hub for all the computing activities that take place today. Right? I would sincerely hope that schools can organize, just like you organize an industrial visit, right? You can probably organize a visit to a data center for all the students to really understand how complex the computing environment is. What we see in front of us in terms of just a desktop or a laptop is a very, very, very small portion of the overall computing environment. Right? We don't see what's happening behind the scene. Right? Like we always say, you sit online to book a ticket and you say that the website is slow. Right? Even a delay of a few seconds, right, we get agitated. Right? You want to make a payment online and the website doesn't throw up the correct page, or it says request timed out or HTTP 404 error, right? We get very irritated. Right? I wish all of us had an opportunity to go and visit a data center for us to really understand the complexities involved in computing. Very, very sophisticated, very, very high-end computing devices, right, under very strict operating conditions. Right? The temperature in a data center is about 18 degrees, 24/7, 365 days. If it goes below or above 18, in a range of 18 to 20, the systems will stop working. And there are people working in this environment 24/7 to ensure that the systems that you and I use work seamlessly. So that's a data center for you. It's the hub for everything today. It's the place where all the computing activities takes place. A very, very sophisticated, high-end computing environment is a data center. Data centers today are either in-house, right? Some companies host their own data center in specialized buildings, specialized rooms, right? Which is waterproof, flood-proof, in a seismic zone where the chances of an earthquake is less, right? The building is made up of material which is fireproof, right? It's like a fort, right? Or even I would say just like what you see in the movies. Right? Today, you need a lot of people who can work in these kind of environments to ensure that these equipments work well. They are protected against any unauthorized access or damage, both physically and logically, right? Meaning somebody should not really be able to enter a data center. And I'm sure that's one reason why most of us don't know where a data center is, because they are never advertised. They are not supposed to be advertised. That you'll never see a board saying that this is a data center, because the facility is so secure that there is no door number either. Right? That's the level of security that they build into a data center. Right? Like I said, I wish students have an opportunity to visit a data center for them to understand how it works. There are certifications like Certified Data Center Security Professional or Certified Data Center Professionals. These certifications help you understand how data centers are built. There's a lot of things which goes into a data center, right? There is a physical aspect of a building. There is a power supply, multiple power supplies, dual power supplies, right? Fire protection systems, like you said, earthquake protection systems, right? Meaning you can't prevent an earthquake, but you can build a building which can resist an earthquake, right? Like there's a lot of activities which go into a data center, and once it's built, right, you bring in all these equipments, you connect them properly, you connect networks to them, right? You manage these equipments, right? That's all part of data center security. This is also an evolving field. A lot of demand for this because data centers are now growing every day. In terms of regulatory compliances, right, like we said, Reserve Bank of India, SEBI, Securities Exchange Board of India, Insurance Regulatory Development Authority, all of these regulators and many, many more, right? They have brought in regulations for information and cyber security, which means a bank today has to work according to the RBI's guidelines on information security. An insurance company has to work according to RBI's guidelines on information security. And you need people in all of these fields, right? You need people in banks, insurance companies, mutual funds, stockbroking, right? You name any entity, right? There's a need for people who can help these organizations comply with these regulations, law on information and cyber security. You call them as chief information security officers, information security professionals. This is a very large space because of the number of institutions that are present. A lot of work is being done in the space of regulatory and legal compliances specific to information and cyber security. I'm not talking about the financial part. This is more about the information and cyber security part. Business continuity and disaster recovery is again a very interesting field, because one thing is to plan a data center. Another thing is to plan how you would manage if something goes wrong, right? That's called as business continuity or disaster recovery. What do we say? However well you plan all of these things, there is a very fair chance that something can go wrong, right? A network can fail, like it fails. Power supply can go down. A building, we see floods, right? We see the impact of floods, right? I'm sure most of us would have experienced it too. In such situations, unbelievably, these data centers manage 24/7 operations, either in the same location or in an alternate location, but it is not by chance, right? They have planned for such events, right? You won't believe that they have planned for each events. They evacuate people, they prepare for exigencies, and this planning is called as business continuity and disaster recovery plan. This is today, again, a lot of demand because more dependent you are on the systems, you need to ensure that if there is no failure or if something goes wrong, you are fully prepared to meet those contingencies. That planning is called as business continuity planning or disaster recovery planning. There are very, very good programs around this offered by Disaster Recovery Institute International or the Business Continuity Institute, right, where you can get yourself trained to become a continuity professional. Right? You can help organizations plan their business continuity and disaster recovery. And this is again a continuous exercise, because so long as computing is there, there is a need for business continuity and disaster recovery. Cloud, like I said today, everything seems to be on the cloud. So there is a need for people who can design controls over the cloud, who can operate the cloud environment, who can manage the cloud security, and that part is called as cloud security. I'm not going into much detail about it because it's mostly logical and it may be difficult for us to understand at this phase. Just understand that clouds like Amazon, Google Cloud, or Dropbox, where you have storage or you have media files being streamed from the cloud, right? All of these environments require separate controls and separate protection. There are good programs for this, right? Like CompTIA Cloud Plus, Cloud Security Certified Professional, and you can undertake these programs to become a cloud security consultant. Finally, digital forensics, right? An interesting field because somehow media seems to have captured this much better than most other things. The moment there is something which goes wrong on a computing device, they report it as a cyber crime. Now, who investigates these cyber crimes? Who finds out what went wrong? Who understands how to collect evidence from a computing environment? I'm sure you would have seen in a lot of movies, right, how they pick up a fingerprint or a DNA sample or a strand of hair from a scene of crime. They analyze it in a lab, find out who could have committed this crime or what could have gone wrong. Now just extrapolate this to a computing environment, right? Just you extrapolate this to an environment where somebody's account is hacked, money is stolen, fund is removed out of the account. Now the banks and everybody seems to be working to find out where there was a compromise, whose card number was stolen, whose mobile phone was misused, which mail ID did it come from, which IP address does it come from. All of this and much more is the domain of digital forensics. A very niche area, very, very specialized area. Maybe you can't begin a career with digital forensics, but you can work in the other fields and then move on to digital forensics. It's emerging in our country. We are having a lot of advanced forensic labs which are coming up in the private sector. In the public sector, there are a lot of forensic labs which are already in place. But this is again, I would say, a very interesting area of work called as digital forensics. There are a lot of programs offered for digital forensics by organizations like SANS, which is a global leader in cybersecurity certifications. You have the Forensic Examiner exam from the United States, again, a very niche exam on digital and cyber forensics. So these are some of the domains. We have also listed some of the international certifications. I'm sure this you can go through them. We'll be sharing this presentation with you post this. This is just illustrative, right? There's still a lot to do, lot of programs, but the key ones are captured here, like the CISA, the CISSP, the Offensive Security Certification, a very, very tough technical exam, like Cisco's certifications. We also have full-time programs. Like I said, you have MSc in Cyber Forensics from the University of Madras in our own place. You have MTech in Information Security and Computer Forensics from the SRM University in Chennai. You have PG Diploma in Cyber Law from a lot of universities in India. A very important field, emerging field of cyber law, because most of the court cases today involve evidences, digital evidences. At Nalsar, a very leading university, they have a good program. CDAC, Center for Development of Advanced Computing, research organization, right? They have offer full-time programs for cybersecurity. You can go to their campus, stay there for a year or two, finish these programs. So there are a lot of opportunities, a lot of training programs which are available in this space. So this is broadly what I wanted to share with you today. Thank you for a patient hearing, and we'll take up some of the questions and try to answer them. Right? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You gave an introduction on cyber and information security. You covered the various domains under cybersecurity and also about the qualifications or certifications relevant to cybersecurity and the various career opportunities. The session was really an eye-opener, sir. Kind attention, attendees. We now move on to the other half of this landmark webinar. It's a gentle reminder to the attendees. The forum is still open to text your questions in the QA box, which is displayed on your screen, and your questions will be addressed by our panelists.
Yeah, I see some of the questions listed here. With the request that I'll answer some of them in this call. Most of them I will try and reply to that as a, if somebody can send me the Q&A in a Word file, I will reply to that so that you can send it back to the respective participants. Some of them which is very topical to what we have discussed, I will try and answer them straight away. One question which reads, how apps like Truecaller say that it is suspected spam or other people's number. It is basically statistics, right? How does a mail go into a spam box? It's basically statistics, right? For example, you get a call and you mark that call, you get a mail and you mark that mail as, I didn't really want this mail. This looks like spam, right? The moment somebody marks a mail as spam, behind the scene, there is a system which learns that, okay, this doesn't look all right. If more people say that it doesn't look all right, then the system says maybe this is not all right. So it keeps learning in the real time, right? That's how spams are identified, plus a lot of other things like the size, the source from which it comes from, right? The font that is used there, the country from which it originates, right? That's how spam is identified. What is the difference between data analysis and data stealth? There is nothing like data stealth. Data analysis is a generic term where people do a lot of analysis around data. Stealth is generally a term used in the context of vulnerability assessment, where you try to analyze if something is going wrong on a system without really the person knowing about it. That is called as stealth, right? So that is called, that is what is stealth. Stealth mode is basically analyze something without the person knowing that it's being subject to analysis. I'm in class 12. How could I become a cybersecurity analyst? There are a lot of programs, right? My suggestion is finish your class 12, decide your graduation, decide what you want to do with your post-graduation, and at that point in time, look at these programs that we have listed, right? If you need anything specific, you can get in touch with me. I have shared my contact detail and mail ID as part of this presentation. I'm sure the school will share it with you. Are there undergraduate courses in cybersecurity? Very much, right? There are undergraduation and post-graduation programs. Some of them are combined programs, right? 3-year, 4-year programs, both within ours in our own city and even outside our city, right? In our country, there are both undergraduation and post-graduation programs. But my suggestion is, unless you are really keen to make this a full-time profession, right? Do a basic graduation of science or commerce and then take this along with it. Right? No harm. You can do this standalone also, right? There's no harm, but my suggestion is look at it in combination with your graduation or post-graduation till you can really decide whether you want to make this as a primary area of work for you. There are a lot of programs both in undergraduation and post-graduation.
So there is a question from Sanjay Murugan.
Yeah.
Is there any possibility to hack whole data using a single photograph of a person, sir?
See, typically, these are circumstantial, right? In the sense that most of the things which go wrong are what we call hacking. That's a term that every one of us understands. So it's an aggregation of information about us. Basically, I'll give you an example, right? Let's say you go walk into a store. When you pay the bill, right, they ask you what is your mobile number and what is your date of birth. Right? Invariably, we give our mobile numbers and date of birth, and we feel very happy when they send an automated message on our birthday wishing us that it's your birthday today. Right? You think there is a person sitting there who has remembered your birthday and sent you a message on your birthday. It's not that way. System is learning. Now, your mobile number, date of birth are two fields which are required to reset your bank accounts. Now, knowingly or unknowingly, we ourselves have shared this information in 100 places. Now it's all that somebody needs is to put all of this information together and they build a profile about you. That's where the risk of social media arises. Unknowingly, we put up a lot of data which individually is insignificant, but cumulatively becomes significant. Now he has your mobile number, he has your date of birth, he goes to your social media profile and finds out your mail ID. Now he has 3 pieces of information. You are not in your house, your credit card bill, physical copy falls on your doorstep or is in a mailbox. He collects that, he has your card number, which means they are aggregating information about us. So single piece of information is not sufficient to break in. We need multiple pieces of information. When making transactions through banking apps, right, there are a lot of, they've given some names like CC Avenue. It asks for card and CVV details. How can we trust this method? If it's a known source, right, like the one that you have set, CC Avenue or BillDesk or a public sector bank, it's absolutely safe. Right? The reason is these organizations undergo what is called as PCI DSS certification, Payment Card Industry Data Security Standards. If it's a known entity, it's absolutely safe to share this data. You might have watched carefully in the last 1 month, the Reserve Bank of India has disabled storage of card data with Flipkart, Amazon, and all the websites. They can't store your card data. You can't go and say, use my old card data. You will have to do a second factor authentication because they realize more data that is stored online, more risk it is. So today, Reserve Bank of India, one of the few regulators in the whole world, who has come up with this saying, globally, maybe you store card data. In India, if you store card data, you have to still authenticate. So they have made it secure for us. So be patient if they ask you for an OTP or a second factor of authentication or a PIN number, it's for our security. What should we study to become a digital forensic? Yeah, sorry, ma'am, I'll just finish this question. For digital forensics, there is a certified digital forensic examiner exam. But my suggestion is forensics requires a lot of maturity in terms of understanding other aspects of information security. So don't start off with forensics. Forensics is something that you can do after 5 or 6 years of working in the space of information security. Yes,
so the next question is, what exam should we take up for cybercrime? For example, doctor, it is NEET, for a medicine, it is NEET. Is there any exam for cybercrime?
Fortunately, for most of the programs that we listed, there is no entrance exam. So essentially, you can straight away enroll for the program. Madras University has a good program on cybercrime investigation and information security. SRM University has a good program for cybercrime investigation and information security. And I think there is a university in Pune which offers a full-time program on cybercrime and information security. None of these have an entrance exam. CDAC has an entrance exam. Center for Development of Advanced Computing, a premier government organization. They have an exam for this, but most of the other people don't have an entrance exam. You can straight away enroll for these programs.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. The next question, can you give some examples of data centers where students can visit?
You are not allowed inside a data center as such. So it's about 4 or 5 layers of access control before somebody can enter a data center, right? It's about, if memory serves right, it's about 5 to 6 layers of access control, right? From the door to the security guard, to physical frisking, to biometrics, to access cards, to PIN numbers, right? A lot of controls before you can enter a data center. What we can try and do is, I can try and check with the data center if they would allow visit at least to the peripheral part of the data center, if not to the core part. But as such, even we are not allowed inside the data center unless we go for an audit. It's a very, very secure environment, but I'll definitely try because that will give a lot of insight to students about what really happens there. Give me some time. I'll check and let the school know if they can organize some visit to a data center.
Yes, sir. Next question. Do we have a better scope in future if we take cybersecurity?
It's current, it's not future, it's current, right? If you look at, I have not put up the statistics because it's in the public domain. Look up the statistics of the government of India on the number of people, skilled people required in cybersecurity over the next 5 years. It runs into millions, right? It runs into millions. The simple reason is we are digitizing everything around us. From the public distribution system to the elections to the payment systems, everything is digitized, which means essentially the need for these people is only going to increase and it's already there. The demand is so much that there's a big gap. There's a huge gap between the requirement of the industry and how many people are really qualified to meet this. So it's not future, it is present. Right? Even as we speak, there is a huge demand for these professionals.
Namaste,
Okay.
sir. I would just ask a question. Can you explain your journey as to how you became a cybersecurity expert? What courses and certifications you underwent, sir?
Yes. First and foremost, I'm not an expert. Okay, so I'm just working in this field. I qualified as a commerce graduate from DAV Gopalapuram in 1997, and went on to do my chartered accountancy because that was my chosen area of interest. But as I was doing my chartered accountancy, in the last year of the exam, or just after I finished my chartered accountancy, there was a lot of need for people who can interpret and understand information security in the banking domain. Right? That was when core banking systems, mobile banking, and everything started. So the CA Institute started a program called as Diploma in Information Systems Audit. I was interested in that program. Fortunately or unfortunately, when I went in to do that program, they said the enrollment is closed. So I looked up international certifications and I hit upon a certification called as CISA, Certified Information Systems Audit. Right? That really changed things because it's a global certification. And from then on, I made it a point to do one security certification every year. Right? From then on, I went on to do CISSP, CDCP, ISO 27001, cyber crimes, in cyber law. So then that's how I branched off into information security. It's open for both chartered accountants as well as science students. This is just to tell you, not to brag about what I have done, but it's just to tell you that commerce students can as well do this program just like science students. There's no need to have a formal engineering or a science background for you to get into the field of information security.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. The session was really informative. Audience, we have come to the end of the session. Gratitude is the fairest blossom which springs from the soul. I request our revered principal, Mr. Ramana Velavan, DAV Secondary School, to propose a formal vote of thanks.
I think there's an audio issue there.
Sure.
Namaste, one and all. Reputed guest speaker, Mr. Chandrasekhar, cyber security analyst, Mr. Vikas Aryaji, our revered secretary, DAV Group of Schools, Chennai, Ranipet, and Puducherry, esteemed members of management, Srimati Shanti Ashokan, Director Academic, principals, HMs, teachers, office staff, supporting staff, parents, students, and well-wishers. Namaste, one and all. On behalf of our management, I deem it a privilege to propose the word of thanks. At the outset, I thank our guest, Mr. Chandrasekhar, cyber security analyst, for having accepted our invitation to be the key speaker of this information session and inspired with the valuable guidance and guidelines in the field of IT, cyber security, and opportunities. Sir, thank you for your motivation and understanding various domains under cyber security, cloud, software, network security, data protection area, and disaster recovery. Lot of takeaways for our children. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir. I extend my sincere thanks to our beloved secretary, Sri Vikas Aryaji, for his blessings and guidance in conducting this meaningful session for the younger generation and also for us in the process of strengthening our nation. Thank all the members of the management for their untiring support. Express my heartfelt Gratitude to our organizing committee of head office at Gopalapuram for the initiative taken to organize this session. Thank all the school principals for having permitted the children to participate, without which it wouldn't have been successful. I also thank all the teachers, parents, and children for their presence and interaction with the panelists. I thank the Almighty for His blessings for the smooth functioning of this session. Namaste. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the
dear-
opportunity. I just request that if somebody can download the chat and share it with me, I would like to respond to the questions because some of them are very relevant and it will be helpful if we are able to answer it. I'll answer it offline so that you can post it to all the people.
Yes, sir. We will send the questions to your good self, and while posting the presentation PDF in the website, we will also share your answers with the participants.
Please, that will be very helpful, ma'am. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you all.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank
Thank
you,
you,
sir.
ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Karthikeyan ji. That's it.
Thank you, sir.
We'll log out, ji.
Thank you, sir. We can log out.
Thank
I'm
you.
set.
Thank you very much.
I'm
Thank you all.
closing, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you.
sir. Thank you, sir.